Hi everybody, welcome back to the channel, and today I wanted to share with you a bit of a chat unboxing of a prototype currently of the new Form Square Games Limits of Glory campaign number 2. This will be Maida 1806 by Andrew Rourke. You will have seen my chat with Andy a few days ago, which was very interesting, discussing his plans for the series, the imminent arrival of his campaign in Egypt, which was funded last summer and I believe is imminently going to be delivered to backers. And this one is planned for similar gamefound launch in the summer, with a slightly quicker delivery time as all the main sort of logistical things are now in place. Andy kindly shared a prototype of the game in its current state, and me and the guys at the club got a chance to play the game with Andy last week, and I just wanted to share some of the initial thoughts, show you some of the prospective contents that you'll get in the box, my thoughts around our playthrough, and hopefully just to give you a flavour of what's due to come in the summer. So for those of you who've backed Napoleon's Egyptian campaign box, the Bonaparte's Eastern Empire, which is campaign number 1, you will be excited to know that that's due to be dispatched very, very shortly. So you should have your hands on that in due course. And hopefully then you'll be turning your attentions to the next in the series. And I am also aware that campaign number 3 is already in the very early stages of play, but that's not kind of anywhere near ready for prototype stage yet, as there's still some things Andy and his playtesters have got to iron out. But that will be Santa Mora and Capri, which will be 2 games in a box, and these will be smaller footprint games over a shorter period of play. So something a little bit different, but again 2 very unusual campaigns in this series. So I really like the work that Andy's doing, the approach he's taken using a UK company, Dice Sports, to formulate everything and get everything together. You can see even for a prototype, as I showed you with the previous campaign, the prototypes themselves are very, very good quality, and the final contents are even better. So let's just show you again. It's in this similar kind of nice thick box, following similar theme to the first one. You've got the flags of the various belligerents in here that are applicable to this particular campaign. So some quite interesting ones there. In this case you've got obviously the French and the British, you've got the local Italians, and you've got some Russians, believe it or not. So this isn't about specifically the Battle of Maida, which has been covered in a few other games. This is all about the old general campaign, and very interesting it is too. Fabulous artwork again, following that similar art theme to what we saw in the first game. Really like that, adds real period flavour. And obviously this box has already been kind of used and the contents sort of put together to show me some prototypes, but I just wanted to give you sort of a flavour of some of these things. I'm just going to open some of the bags for you just to show you, for example, you know, again, this is a prototype. These are some of the really good cardstock that go on the events clock, which is a really unique aspect of the first game and will follow throughout the series, along with the glory ratings as well. So you can see those really, really good quality. You've got a selection of those that are used on the clock throughout the game. I'll show you the clock itself in a moment. Really nice, good sized dice, and some what we would use these for is momentum tokens, which are kind of marking how many actions you've got in a turn. And then you've got these sort of counters. You've got some circular ones here. These are the ships predominantly. So we've got here, for example, very, very nice. These are some victory point counters, very nice as well. Let's just see if we can show you a few of the other ship counters just for reference. There you go, this one's a good one. Okay, so you can get a bit of a flavour there on those. Again, really good cardstock. I'm not going to go through all of these. Some various different counters here. These are the representative of the different forces. Again, these really nice rounded edged counters. Again, good thickness, as you can see there. Very clear and easy to follow. That lovely kind of artwork again. Really, really nice. So bearing in mind this, I say, is a prototype, the quality is excellent. And you've got these lovely cartoonist type counters which represent the various chain of command commanders, generals used in the game, and also some of the key warships as well. So again, really, really nice. It shows you their kind of, in effect, chain of command rating, where they are in hierarchy for their various nationalities. So these ones are, obviously, you've got the British, Oswald, that's Ackland. You've got these ones here, the yellow ones, Lacey, and there's another one, there's some of the Russian ones there as well. And then you've got guerrillas as well. You've got the guerrilla partisan element in the game, which is very interesting how that's done. Played quite an interesting part in our first game. But again, you can get a flavour of those. Again, you've got some of your partisan stroke guerrillas. Again, some of your different nationalities there. Very nice. Very nice. The yellow are your, I believe, if I remember rightly, are the local Italian sort of forces as well. So that's the counters. Obviously at this stage we've just got a rough photocopy of the rules, but again they're laid out really nice, simple fonts. Again, this is not the final version, but you can see there the various factions that we've talked about: French, British, Neapolitan, Calabrian guerrillas, Russians. Some very interesting elements in play. Forces for various combatants, mechanisms. Again, it's lots of examples of play. Of course, at the moment we haven't got all the illustrations and haven't seen the kind of final version of the rules for the Eastern Empire game. Some beautiful examples of play and beautiful illustrations in there. So again, that's all to come. But this is, I say, very early stages of what will be the new release coming to Gamefound in the summer. So you'll have a similar Allied and French command charts as you had in the first game. So you can see there the Allies have got the Russians, who don't seem to hang around for very long, as historically they didn't, the Neapolitans and the British, the guerrillas and the Navy. So interesting. The French under Massena, who's the main man, and then his chain of command accordingly. Arania played a very interesting part in our game, specifically in the week, where he didn't do very much for a very long time, but again, an interesting dynamic with the engineer as well that the French have, which helps with things like sieges. We've then got, similar to what we had in the first game, the combat chart, which is this really lovely thick cardstock, easy to see, very colourful, very clear. Combat is so simple in this game, and it's really, really effective. You know, it's really, really good. I really like this. So again, we've got one of those. You've then got the turn clock, similar to what again we've got in the first game. So as the game goes along, you will roll an event each turn, and gradually, depending on what you get, you may get to move down into these later events until you get down in these latter reaches where one of these will potentially end the game. So lots of historical flavour and chrome in here. Can add aspects to the game. Again, this is not the final version, but you can see there, really, really good, and we had some fun with that. I just want to show you the map, which again is following a very similar theme to the first game, and again a beautiful mounted board, really good thick hard stock again. I'm going to just put this sideways on at the moment because it's a little bit easier for the angle of the camera for you to see what's going on. But hopefully you can get a flavour of how beautiful that is, and the colours really pop on these cartoonist type pictures. I know Andy has sort of said maybe some of this will change because it's a little bit busy in areas, and he's thinking of changing some of it but not all of it, but the basics of the map will remain. So we've got Sicily over here, mainland Italy over here, and then you got your sea areas commanded by the navies here. So to sort of give you a little bit of flavour, the British are kind of starting on the mainland with the Neapolitans, having to kind of bring their ships navy back over to protect Sicily. And then potentially at some point they're going to have to come back to the mainland to try and take these areas as the French invasion coming from Gaeta and Messina over this way starts to encroach into the mainland. And that's what we saw in our game. The French always start up here, and again we've got the same mechanics working. With each time you want to move, you have to roll the number of d6 based on the number and get a 5 or 6 to be able to do actions with those units in that area there. So in our game, I made the fatal mistake as the French of coming on here and breaking my forces up with Messina assaulting and sieging Gaeta straight off, which is a very critical part of the game, but putting Rainier's force into this area here where you're only rolling 1 dice to activate each turn. And of course I found I couldn't roll a 5 or 6 typically for multiple turns, and Rainier got stuck here with a large proportion of my forces going absolutely nowhere. And because the only box that you can move from here other than that one is Gaeta, we had a large assault and siege going on here again for multiple terms. So the French were stagnated here, and that was only when they were actually allowed to invade, which gave the Royal Navy lots of time to come along the coast to these various ports and grab the barges, the gunboats, all the necessary naval elements, and take those over to Sicily before I was really able to start pushing through. In our game, we had some quite unusual things. The Russians disappeared in turn 1. Gaeta fell after a few turns, which was quite critical for the French in the final result. And then they started to move very slowly along into Naples, at which point they started to expand out and come round this way. The guerrillas launched into this area here and started to do distraction attacks, which were causing me quite a lot of aggravation. They're quite effective in the game. They're not a game winner, but they're a nuisance factor, as you would expect. And the Royal Navy started to land back in Reggio and Maida and these areas here, bringing forces in. So we literally got to the last turn of the game where the victory conditions for both sides were hanging in the balance. So for the French, they needed to have more victory points than the British and hold Gator. I think we were on a swing of about 2 victory points coming into the last turn. I was able to capture some of these and grab victory by the skin of my teeth in the last turn. So it was a really close-knit game. I'll put some pictures on at the end of the video to show you some of that. Thoroughly enjoyable, and once again the events clock and the glory ratings of the various commanders and ships played real critical parts. Attrition is also a really big thing. The French do have a reinforcement pool, but it's not a massive reinforcement pool, but it does help, whereas the British and their allies do not. So for the French, they can't afford to lose too much in these initial large sieges. Otherwise, as they go along, their supply lines are getting really stretched. And this is where the guerrillas come into their own, causing a real nuisance factor. But hopefully that's just giving you a little insight, a little snapshot into the next planned game in this series, Limits of Glory campaign number 2. That will be Maida 1806. This is Andrew Rourke's second edition of this series. He's got a number planned. Please watch the other videos where I have a good in-depth chat with Andy around all things hobby and his theories and ideas behind the series, mechanics, board game design, and of course the games themselves. Likewise, I have got some earlier videos covering the first game, campaign number 1, Bonaparte's Eastern Empire. There's an unboxing and a review that you can have a look at as well. But any questions, of course, please post them in the comments as also, and thanks for watching.